What's good, everyone? You're listening to WKNC 88.1 FM Raleigh. We are a student-run nonprofit radio station based out of North Carolina State University. I'm Plover, and this is Off the Record. Here with me today is the extremely talented Small Town Sci-Fi. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're from, what do you do?
Well, I'm from Salinas, California. It's sort of an agricultural town on the central coast of California. Right now, the past 2 years, I've been a TA slash graduate student in mathematical physics at UC Berkeley.
That's crazy. And on the side, you make music?
Yeah. I've been shifting the focus more and more towards music.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of discovered that I liked making music while I was already in the graduate program. And I've actually decided to take some time off this year to complete my album.
Oh, that's awesome. Is there kind of a general release date in the album, or is it just like I'm gonna get it done when I get it done type of thing?
I'm hoping to have it done by October, and hopefully released soon after.
Let's go. That's really cool. So is it Small Town Sci-Fi? Really cool name. Is there kind of a story behind that? Is any history there?
Yeah. So I've lived in small towns since I was a little kid, and I've always had this appreciation for the aesthetic of science fiction. I think it's the unknown that sort of draws me in, and so having this combination of living in places where you sort of know all of the landscape and the streets and everything by heart, and you have this desire to sort of get out and see things someday, and so the sort of adventure and exploratory themes in science fiction really always pulled me in, and so I just combined those two notions, small town and sci-fi, and that was my name.
Yeah, that's really cool. Very Steven Spielberg. I like that a lot. Also, your EP recently, Psycho EP. Is there any kind of history behind, I guess, why you called it that?
Yeah, I think the song Psycho became sort of the centerpiece for the EP, and I saw those themes coming up again and again in each of the songs, and it basically stems from this desire that I've had to be understood and to be able to communicate, and to feel that if I'm unable to communicate, then I'm vulnerable to be judged, called things such as the title of the song and the EP, and so I think that's where it comes from.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. And also, so you said the music is kind of a recent thing, but have you been sort of like a person who grew up with making music, or is this just like a really recent, oh, I really like music type of scenario?
I've always taken a lot of comfort in listening to music, and I have always had, as long as I can remember, a desire to make it. I never really had the means. I wasn't trained in any instruments or anything. So while I've been coming up with melodies since I was a teen, I never had any chords to put these melodies on top of. And so a few years ago, I think it's about 4 years ago now, after hearing an artist that I found really inspiring, I just decided to go out and buy a guitar, and then pretty soon I could put my melody over chords, and that's how it happened.
Nice. And has it kind of been more of like a solo project, or are there a lot of friends or kind of anyone who could help you with that?
It had been a solo project for a long time, and then I spent a couple months collaborating with one of my best friends. Her name's Kim. She's also she's from the Bay Area, and I would go out to her house on the weekends, and we would just jam together and collaborate, and that sort of gave me a second wind, and then pushed me to complete the EP, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, it can be really great to to have someone who understands what you're trying to do with your music and to see the value in it. And also, it is great to be able to play with someone. It's been a solo project, but getting to collaborate with someone as talented as my friend was, it really is going to be one of my fondest memories, I think, for a long time.
For sure, especially since the music's so intimate that'd be really cool to like really connect with someone around that type of idea. Speaking of your music, how would you kind of describe that to someone who's maybe never heard your music before? Like, well, what would be like the elevator pitch of like what you produce?
I think I'd call it post-traumatic indie rock. And I call it that because I think there is sort of an element that feels like there's been some exposure to some kind of trauma. At least that's what I feel like I'm letting out when I am making music. And I hope that in the end it's dealing with something and coming out with some kind of hope, even if it's not necessarily what you expected to come out with.
Yeah, so it's kind of about like more like the healing process.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a theme.
Awesome. Yeah. So the reason actually we set this interview up, of course, is that we've been playing Methadone for a while now, and amazing track, of course, love that one. What about it kind of speaks to you, and why do you think anyone would listen to that, or a college radio station would pick that up?
Well, thanks for saying that. I think that I hope it's because the message maybe resonates with people, and or that people who have some similar experiences or need to maybe find something that speaks to something that they've gone through, then maybe they can hear it. Mm-hmm. Because I do think that is a big part of it is communication, right?
For sure.
So I do hope that it's communicating well, because that's sort of the reason that I made it. Maybe it's also a little catchy. I don't know.
Oh yeah, for sure. It communicates, but it also communicates over a really sick drum line and some nice riffs there. Yeah, it's the best way to communicate.
Yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned this is very like kind of post-traumatic indie rock. It's like the I guess characters of the stories have kind of gone through stuff. How do you like incorporate these sort of weighty themes into your music without it like being like melodramatic or like too like overbearing, like to be able to find like a good blend?
Well, I think that just kind of is naturally how I like to deal with things. Like I do think a lot about some pretty hard things that I've been through and that I've seen and that I see other people go through. But I also I think I'm pretty optimistic, just naturally. I think I do veer towards optimism. And so I think that almost automatically keeps it from being too sad to handle.
Yeah, for sure. It's more focused on the recovery than maybe the actual act.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool, and a lot of that is kind of how you present it in the genre. Like this is it's indie rock. It's like kind of stripped back. And it's also a lot of folk rock. I heard that in there. Do you like folk rock? Is that something that you listen to a lot and then kind of maybe drew some influence into your tracks?
I do like folk rock. I do listen to it a lot, and so yeah. I think that does show up. You know, what your diet definitely shows up, right, in what you record.
Of course. And how do you think those like kind of like what similarities you kind of see between like indie rock and folk rock? They're often considered different genres, but I'm sure there's some very kind of underlying themes which you've definitely fused together on this.
Yeah, I don't really know where the where that boundary is. It's kind of you kind of know it when you hear it, right? Um, so I think you just you pull from each different genre the elements that you love about them, right? And that sort of that can be kind of a natural process. And so with Methadone, you can hear a lot of the folk influences right away, and then it sort of breaks into the indie rock realm where I'm a little more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, for sure. For you, is it more of like an instrumental thing, or do you bring some vibes in there as well?
Between are we still on folk rock and
Yeah,
indie
folk
rock?
rock, indie rock, like.
It's definitely a combination, right? It's not just the instruments. It's also the vibes and the beat you put it to, and I think certain melodies probably work better if you're going to say this is going to be a folk rock track, right? You might have to make additional adjustments to get it to switch it over into what would be called the indie rock genre. I think I think to speak on this, I'd need to have a degree in music theory.
Of course. So yeah, just kind of touching on like genres and how expansive they are and stuff. What exactly? Again, there are a lot of music genres out there. What drew you just specifically to these two? Like, why am I not talking to Small Town Sci-Fi, the Cloud Rapper, for example? What was it about those?
Well, I think it was probably the fact that the artists that I heard that made me want to get into making music was sort of on the singer songwriter is now folk rock, indie rock, and I don't think before I'd heard this artist who is by the way it's Julian Baker. I don't know if you're
yeah.
I hope so.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But before I'd heard her, I hadn't. Getting into music was always something that was just a fun idea, right? It wasn't a necessity. And then after listening to her stuff, it became a necessity. And so I think through a lot of inspiration, and that maybe motivated the initial direction that I took.
Okay, yeah. So were you like listening to like different kinds of artists before seeing Julian Baker's music, and then that kind of like shifted how you listen to stuff?
Yeah. I had actually been. I think I'd been. I think before that, the Front Bottoms were my favorite band for a long time. And then through them, you discover bands like Modern Baseball, right, Brand New, Sorority Noise. And I think that's how Julian Baker came up on my YouTube suggestions, going down this sort of rabbit hole of bands that she was associated with.
The algorithmic classy. That is kind of crazy. How does like this is a bit off topic, but that really is crazy how powerful algorithms are in music today. Have you noticed like any like algorithmic oddities with your own music?
The suggested artists sometimes, like after my songs come up, are always interesting. They can come from widely different genres, but I don't know if that's because I don't have enough listeners for them to make their final suggestion over who else they should listen to if they like one of my songs. But so it's been fun. I think anyone who's just starting to get their stuff onto SoundCloud or Spotify or anything like that probably also has similar experiences.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess I didn't really think about like that's how kind of those suggested artists come up. In terms of how you make music, what's like your general process? Like, do you go for like a sound first and then like kind of tailor the song to fit that sound, or is it more of like I have the song written out, I just need to find the way to express like what I'm trying to write?
A lot of times, for the most part, the melodies always come first, and sometimes the melodies will come with a beat or something, or maybe a few syllables, which will turn into lyrics. And and usually the melody will come with a general vibe as well, which will sort of inform everything else. That's how it's been about 90% of the time. And as I've sort of started to grow, you know, as a guitarist, I start to, I think the writing process is changing a little bit, and now I can start to write something on the guitar instead of in my head. And so I'm excited to see if things will change a little bit in terms of the writing process.
Yeah, for sure. So is it like you get the melody, you get the vibe, that informs maybe like some adjectives you kind of throw in the song there, and then that kind of fleshes it out from there?
Yes, exactly.
Nice, nice. Do you care about like do you think of like a hook first, or the verses first, or is it kind of just like all in one thing?
It's gone both ways.
Mhm.
I definitely I prefer when it comes all at once. It's just so much easier than trying to have to match things up together.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so if I can put a request out to whoever sends the melodies, all at once is great. But yeah, a lot of times it will either be the verse or the chorus, and then it might take some time to think of something, or to have something come that will serve as the chorus or verse for the other piece that I would have
Hmm.
come up with.
For sure. Yeah. So, and in terms of songwriting, do you have like an 8 Mile style like notebook, or how do you go about that?
I really need to be more organized. It's actually just a complete
Yeah,
mess.
yeah, yeah. I gotcha. No, just like post-it notes, like
Yeah, writing on the wall, on the
classic. Yeah.
clock, anything I can get my hands on.
That's a creative process. That's really cool. Um, so again, the reason we started talking is because a college radio station was interested in your music. So what do you think is kind of the role of college radio stations for either indie rock or just kind of smaller artists in general in terms of like getting exposure and promoting them?
Um, I think that I think the role's pretty huge. Uh, for one, it's really, it really makes one happy to hear that someone at a college station enjoyed their song enough to play it on the air, and to share it with your fellow students. And that, I mean, that just, I think that gives us a lot of energy. It
Hmm.
makes us want to keep creating. um, it's incredibly validating.
For sure.
And yeah, I do think that the way that college radio stations look and discover new music, I think we could all use a little more of that. I think I should do more of that, looking, and so you sort of do a lot of the work for us. And so thank you.
Of course. It's our pleasure. What exactly are you kind of getting at there, and like how college stations are different than maybe like other stations or other platforms?
Well, I think college radio stations, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because this is your domain, not mine. But it does seem like you're willing to take chances,
Oh, yeah.
uh, and a lot of other, maybe, I don't know if I would call them commercial radio stations, or satellite radio, whatever
Mhm.
they are. They don't seem to take these chances, right? They go with established artists who have a proven track record, um, which is, it's understandable. But if you're looking to discover something new, that's not really the way to go about it, right?
Yeah. That's yeah, that's correct. That's a great read of the about the situation.
Is that correct, or am I wrong?
Yeah, I know from our point we just like to kind of deep dive, and like because we don't, I guess we're not commercial, we don't really have like a need to like make money. We can just kind of play whatever cool experimental stuff we find, like your music, like a lot of different artists will often dig up from Bandcamp or somewhere.
Right. That's so awesome.
Do you like Bandcamp as a platform personally? I know you have one.
I do. When I'm when my life's sort of a little more organized, I like to go and have a weekly discover session where I look for new bands. And that hasn't been easy lately because I've been busy and moving around a lot, but I hope to get back to that. In the meantime, I'll just be probably tuning into, to your station and letting you do the performance.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, those sessions can be a lot to set up, but really rewarding if they go well. Is college radio like not just the college part, but also like I guess radio versus streaming services? Like, why would one listen to, for example, just our station over like an algorithmically generated playlist?
Because there's a real person, selecting this and curating these lists, right, that you play on the air, and I think there's a lot of care that goes into that. Even if it doesn't seem like it, and I'm sure that sometimes it just, maybe for people doing it, it's just, I just like this, I'm putting it on, but you are sharing things that you like, and I think there's something personal about that, and I think that we need personal. Right?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, so for anyone listening, it is confirmed we actually do a job, and we do put an effort. It's been discussed here, and we can clear up the allegations now. Thank you.
Okay.
So let's see. So what was that? Sorry?
I'll be willing to testify if necessary.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely let you know. So you're on the West Coast, that's correct, in California. What's kind of like the indie scene like out there? I've never really been to the West Coast before.
There's a little indie scene out in the East Bay, and I've met some really cool people. Some of them helped me make the EP, and that's all I can say, because I'm not. I'm moving around so much, and I am still now. Right now I'm in Salinas. I'm not even in Berkeley anymore, so I can't really comment. I'm not really qualified to comment on the indie scene out there. But I do know there are some great people. So, that you can on Bandcamp. I think you can search by city. So please do.
And even just like the kind of concerts you would maybe go to. Have you noticed any like vague patterns across maybe places you've lived about like what places draw different, I guess, genres and influences?
I think there's a lot of cool like bedroom dream pop stuff in around the Bay Area, and so a lot of the local shows that I go to, they have that sort of theme. And I lived in Sacramento for a while. They have a lot of stuff out there. If you head north, they have like a big bluegrass. Ooh. Like it's way north of Sacramento.
Yeah.
The bluegrass crowd. And there's some metal pockets here and there, right? In Sacramento, they have a little bit of they have a lot of metal fans, and so they tend to have some good shows.
Nice.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I kind of focus on local music here, so it's always really cool to like see like different scenes from different cities and how that like influences them. And I hope you're able to like really tap into one of those in the near future with that album.
Me too.
Does the album have a title yet, by the way, or is it just in the works?
Oh, on the album, it's still a working title.
Of course.
We're still waiting on that.
Or maybe it'll just be working title. That could be the final one.
I might get sued by one of these production companies, I think.
Of course. Do you have any upcoming shows you plan to do, maybe either to promote the album or the EP, or just I guess between those release points?
Yeah, I am looking to set up some shows. They might be in the Pacific Northwest, because that's where I'll be doing the recording for the rest of the album. And so I should get those. I'd probably post those on my social media or my website. Hopefully I'll have dates for those soon.
Nice. Do you have I don't know how long you've been playing shows, but do you have like a favorite show you've ever played, or is this like a new development for you?
Yeah, up until now, it's been mostly, yard shows
Hmm.
or or acoustic performances for bars and smaller businesses. And so I did have one of those in Sacramento that was really fun. It was just a really supportive crowd and a lot of just musicians that like to get together and play. And it's funny. It's a lot of retired older musicians too.
Ooh.
So people people 50 and over. There's a big crowd up in Sacramento to like just go around to shows and meet people, and I think they have like an open mic circuit they go on. And so it was fun to meet them and see how much joy that playing together brought them.
That's really sick, and yeah, I really hope you're able to kind of get some of that joy as well, and that support. Yeah, that's amazing. Do you hope that you can kind of continue that like intimate kind of shows going forward?
Yeah, yeah. I'll have a great time at every single one of them.
Hell yeah. I was checking out your YouTube channel. I saw you had songs up there. Do you plan to drop any music videos kind of closer to the album?
I do. I have a lot of ideas for music
Mhm.
videos. Um, I and I do work with a friend of mine who's an artist, and and we talk about certain ways forward with a lot of these ideas. But I think they'll probably have to wait until after the album's
Yeah.
out, because the if you're trying to to pair something like that with a song that you take a lot of time with, it's going to take a lot of creative energy, um, just to make sure that you're sort of not making something that takes away from the spirit of the song. And that's something that I worry a lot about
Yeah.
when whenever I'm like when I was designing the album cover, for instance. It was pretty exhausting because
Mm.
I was so worried that I was going to make something that would sort of detract from the album instead of instead of maybe completing it, right? That's always a tough thing to aim for.
Yeah. What would you say is kind of your process for like taking those very like sonic ideas and like turning them into visuals?
I feel lucky there because I'm drawn to certain, I don't know if it's scenery or if it's I am moved to take certain photos, and they tend to, I think it's just related to where I'm drawn musically, and so they do tend to match up, um, almost, without too much effort. And at least people tell me that they match up. I don't know. I'm accepting their judgment.
Yeah, no, the cover of like the what was it, the like gas station and car for the EP, what was really
Yeah,
cool, like kind of that like open road vibe. What was really fun to like connect that to the album.
it's great to hear.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? I've been hitting you with a lot of questions here.
I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for having
Of
me.
course, yeah. Thank you so much for being here. I love talking to artists. I mostly talk to local artists, so it's really great to like step out of that and talk to someone where I have to coordinate time zones with. That's something I've never done before. Um,
Thank you so much. I've only been to North Carolina a few times, but I I want to visit now, and hopefully
yeah, please
I can.
pull up. Where'd you go in North Carolina, by the way?
So I have a friend of mine. She she was actually one of my advisors in college, and she retired out in Asheville.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah, that's definitely a fun place.
yeah, so I went out there. I don't know how much. Uh, Asheville is, I don't know if that's very. I've also been to, I think Myrtle Beach is in North Carolina, right?
It's like kind of like North South Carolina. It's like kind of on that boundary.
Okay. So I lived in South Carolina for a while, and I drove up the coast with a friend on a road trip one time.
Nice.
Yeah, I need more experience in North Carolina now.
Of course, yeah. Again, we'd love to have you here for sure. Do you want to let anyone know where they can find your music? Any social media you got?
Yeah, so Small Town Sci-Fi is the band / project name. So please look me up. I'm on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, YouTube. I think most places that the distributors send things to. On Instagram, if anyone wants to follow and check out some pictures with open road vibes.
And always got some of those for sure. Well, again, thank you so much for doing this. I'm going to do a quick outro, then we'll be good to go.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and you can check out all the interviews I did, and everyone here does, at WKNC.org/podcast and click off the record. I'm Plover, and I've been here with Small Town Sci-Fi on WKNC 88.1 FM Raleigh.